We have breaking news here from Guadalajara, Mexico. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, otherwise known as AMLO, has officially cut or paused relations diplomatically with the US and Canada. In this video, we're going to talk about what that means for both Mexicans and Americans, and we're going to get into even more details about what that might mean for you as an entrepreneur expat or aspiring entrepreneur expat.
Welcome to Entrepreneur Expat. On this channel, we cover everything about making money online, doing a business internationally, living overseas as an expat, and traveling full-time. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure to subscribe below and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single video coming from this channel. We're trying to get as much of these videos out as we can. The news cycle has been crazy in the United States and also in Mexico and just all over the world. And speaking of subscribing, we have a huge celebration. We just hit 1,000 subscribers on the channel. So thank you so much, and keep sharing this out. These are important conversations that we need to be having. If you're interested in moving to Mexico, download our Moving to Mexico guide below. And if you're interested on how to make money online so you can go anywhere, then make sure to download our Make Money from Anywhere guide below, because it'll give you how to get started. And also, huge congratulations to those of you who've been joining us in our business training programs.
We've had over 5 people sign up just in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, we have people signing up every single week. We cannot wait to help you guys get started in building your online businesses so you can make your dream of living in other countries come true. So let's get into it. What is going on in Mexico, and what does the US and Canada have to do with it, which I think is the question on everyone's mind.
So we're here in Parque Metropolitano, and we were just out for a little jog, and we're gonna go ride some bikes here with our dog Daisy, she's right there behind us.
There she
Hey,
is.
Daisy.
I found her.
And we recently found out this news about what's going on with the justices or the judges in Mexico, and that's not just the Supreme Court justices, but also all the judges throughout the entire country, which is they're doing a political reform. And what Mexican President AMLO has changed in the judicial process is that now, instead of being essentially appointed or having a career where judges are able to just kind of rise up for the ranks, they're actually now mandating that they do elections for all of the different positions of judges throughout the whole country.
Right, so about 7,000 judges AMLO proposed, and I think it passed in the lower house a few days ago. All have to go to elections. It's been very controversial. There's debate within Mexico. We're not going to talk too much about the Mexican politics. Instead, Mexicans who watch our channel, please let us know what you think about it below, because we're foreigners here, so we don't have an opinion on it. But what we can tell you is what we have been seeing in the news to try and explain it from the most factual way possible. So the pros of this, according to the people who are proponents for it, are that it's a pro-democratic move, and then the people get to decide who the judges are, so on and so forth. The cons are that they're saying it could be really bad for business and foreign investment, because I guess the idea is that the judges currently are very pro-foreign investment. And then a lot of people are concerned that because AMLO's party is currently in power, then you're just basically going to have a bunch of judges that are also associated with that party, therefore causing corruption in the system. So those are the pros and cons from what we've been seeing. Again, we don't have an opinion on it. That's for Mexicans to decide whether or not that makes sense for them and their country. So if you are Mexican, please let us know in the comments how you feel, because it seems that it's pretty controversial. There have been protests. It runs the spectrum in terms of how people feel about it. Now, what does this have to do with the US and Canada is the question.
That is a great question. And this brings up another really important topic, which is that the US and Canada, and in a lot of cases, many Western European countries as well, really love to opine in the politics of other nations, whether it's because they feel superior or whether that's morally or otherwise.
Or they say it's for their own interests, right?
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
Which is why most people, especially in government, give their opinion on something or try to change politics, because their interests may or may not be met by what those other countries are doing. But here's the deal. We as entrepreneur expats and as for the most part libertarians, believe very much in foreign sovereignty. And apparently so does AMLO, which he has every right to do. Mexico, frankly, is tired of being treated as a subservient country to the U.S. or just there to meet all of the U.S.'s interests. And so AMLO has created very strong economic ties with other nations, China being very high up there on the list. And over the last several years, Mexico has been divesting more and more from needing to have all of its economic prosperity come in big part from places like the US and Canada. And the main reason that they're doing that, from what we've seen, is because they just really want to have their own independent country that isn't under the thumb
Of anybody else. Yeah.
of the West specifically. So whether you agree with the politics or not, our opinion is that Mexico should be able to do whatever is best for Mexico and whatever Mexico's government decides to do.
And whatever the Mexican people decide to do. That's for them to decide, not for the United States and Canada and every other country to start coming in and subverting the situation or telling Mexico or any other country for that matter what to do. Because if you believe in the sovereignty of nations, which I would assume most people in the West say they believe in the sovereignty of nations, then you should let other nations do what other nations are going to do, and you should let the people of those nations decide. Now, this isn't like Venezuela or anything like that, where the elections are obviously not actual elections.
We won't get into the politics of that.
Yeah, we're not going to get into Venezuela.
Because there's a whole other influence there that came in the past from
the United
States
Yeah, it's very
to begin with.
It's complicated. It's very complicated.
That's neither here nor there.
But that's not from what we're seeing, that's not necessarily what's going on here in Mexico. And again, Mexicans, let us know how you feel about it, because it affects you more than anybody, and it's your country. Now, apparently the United States and Canada started sticking their noses in the situation, and AMLO just kind of wasn't having it. So from what I saw this morning, AMLO a few days ago froze diplomatic relations with the U.S. and Canada, which essentially doesn't really mean anything, apparently. It's more symbolic than anything.
He didn't send anybody home from the embassies or anything like that, but it's definitely a sign that Mexico is starting to put its foot down and not allowing other countries to just dictate willy-nilly what their politics or their policies and procedures should be in running their nation.
Exactly. And then what I also saw this morning was that AMLO was not shy in saying, look, if we have to cut trade relations, we're willing to do that too, which I would think as a business person and as a negotiator, you wouldn't do that unless you had leverage. Then again, AMLO's on his way out, so maybe he's just saying whatever he wants. We don't know. We're not the guy. We're not in government. We have no idea. This is all speculation.
So what might this mean for you as an entrepreneur expat or as an aspiring entrepreneur expat? Well, if you're like us and you've already taken the initiative to, let's say, get your residence in another country, like Mexico in our case, you're probably okay. It's not like they're going to go and kick out Americans from Mexico because they're starting to decrease diplomatic relations with the U.S. But we have a suspicion that, just as we've said in other videos, it is going to start to get harder and harder for you as an American or as a Canadian, or maybe in some cases even as a European, to be able to get residence in Mexico. The requirements
or
other countries, absolutely.
Because Mexico is not the only country that's starting to push back against the United States, and this goes to another thing that we've been talking about in a lot of videos, which a lot of Americans don't realize, which is the fact that the United States is like the #1 supreme superpower. Yeah, that's not really a thing anymore. We're moving into a multipolar world.
Absolutely.
So that's number one. And number two, the influence, what's the word? Not the respect. It was like the influence that the United States was once able to have over a lot of other countries. A lot of other countries are just not really buying it.
Because when you
anymore.
sanction everybody to death, of course, they start to form their own alliances.
So then
which is exactly what's happened.
That causes problems for the United States, and that's what we've been saying. Is it's not just the internal problems going on in the United States right now, it's also that you do have countries like Mexico and several other countries who've just said, yeah, I'm not with the shits anymore, basically.
And they're basically sticking their middle finger to the U.S. that has been treating them like an inferior country for many, many, many decades.
And people are tired of it because the United States has been throwing its weight around since the end of World War II. And then we just have to realize that the world is constantly changing. And that is part of the entrepreneur expat mindset. Things are always changing and you have to learn to adapt and you have to give yourself options. Now, in terms of a lot of the concerns that people have about Mexico, about whether or not it's going too far left, are they going to ruin the country, so on and so forth. I mean, we'll be on to the next country by then, which is kind of the point, is that you want to have a portfolio of options because...
Or not, we just have the option to.
We have the option to, right? We have the option to go to other countries because essentially, like, there's no such thing as a perfect country. They all have their pros and cons. We've said this over and over and over again. But I think the important lesson here for Americans and also Canadians to understand is that they can't throw their weight around like they used to anymore and then other countries just do what they say. That influence has been diminishing over the years, and on top of that, with what we've had going on with the election and all the insanity going on in the United States,
we're not at liberty to tell other countries what they should do with their elections and their politics.
We're not at liberty to tell other countries what they should do with their laws and elections. I mean, for crying out loud, they're saying, you know, it's anti-democracy for Mexico to do that. Like, you literally just appointed a candidate no one voted for.
A czar who was apparently never a border czar, which is a whole other topic.
So, I mean, there's that, and a lot of other countries are throwing that in the face of the United States. Like, what do you mean democracy? Are you out of your mind? So there's that.
And that's the same thing that Maduro said, essentially, when we tried to interfere with the elections there in Venezuela, where he's like, who's talking? What do you mean, no democracy?
So
what are you guys
the United
doing?
States doesn't really have much of a leg to stand on. Even if other countries are dead-ass wrong in what they're doing, they're pushing back and be like, what do you mean democracy? It's not like you have a great democracy going on right now. You guys look batshit to the whole world right now.
Yeah.
So it's important to know those things because of a lot, and these are things that are easier to realize when you are living outside of the United States. You start to notice these things more and more and more because when you're in the United States, you live in a little bit of a bubble. And you might see all the problems going on within the United States right now, and that's really bothering you, but you may not be aware of how other countries are moving in relation to the United States, which also affect you. And yeah, the United States has been losing its stronghold very steadily, and it's probably going to continue if it keeps being this crazy, if I'm being honest.
Yep. So that's what we have for you today about the Mexican political situation. I would definitely recommend that you keep yourself apprised of everything that is going on in political news. And if you are on the fence about getting a second residence, especially somewhere like Mexico, make sure that you act now, because 6 months from now, with all of the political turmoil and elections and America shoving its hoo-ha in other people's other people's business.
No, I think they're trying to shove something else, not a hoo-ha.
Well, we got to keep it family friendly here. Anyway, we want to make sure that we don't let opportunities that we may have today go, because those opportunities may not be there tomorrow. So if you are on the fence about becoming an entrepreneur expat, make sure you take action. And one of those actions could be to download our Make Money From Anywhere guide below, so that you have a setup to make money remotely, make money from anywhere, and you're not tied to being in the US or Canada or wherever else you're from.
Because we're also not tied to Mexico. We could go somewhere else.
Exactly.
And that's the key here. And again, if you're Mexican and you have thoughts on what is going on, because it seems Mexicans are a bit divided on the issue, let us know in the comments below, because it's your issue, not ours.
Definitely.
As Americans. And I think the key here is, you know, sovereignty. Mexico is allowed to have its own sovereignty without the US and Canada getting involved, and that the stronghold that the West once had on the world is diminishing, which is going to affect your quality of life in the United States and Canada. So with that being said, thank you so much. Thank you for helping us hit 1,000 subscribers.
1,000 subscribers, yay.
Yeah, we're trying to get out as much informational videos to you guys as we can. Thank you to those of you who have joined us in our business training programs. Congratulations. You are well on your way to the entrepreneur expat lifestyle. And we will see you guys in the next video.